Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss best practices regarding IT modernization programs and strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Dr. Raj Iyer, Chief Information Officer, U.S. Army, Heidi Myers, Deputy Chief Information Officer, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Dominic Cassatt, Acting Chief Information Officer, Department of Veterans Affairs, Rob Carey, President Cloudera Government Solutions, Scott Anderson, Distinguished Architect and CTO at DHS Verizon Federal, and Nicholas Spees, Chief Federal Technologist at Snowflake. Well, I'm happy to report that the IT modernization conversation is no longer about should I modernize, when should I modernize, can I afford to modernize? Frankly, we can't afford not to modernize, and I think we've seen a lot of reasons for that. It's more about how do I modernize and how do I modernize efficiently and effectively, and how do I make sure that I'm doing that, aligning to enabling that very important mission that we're all supporting. Interestingly enough, we have three panel members here with new roles. And our first panel member, Raj, actually has a new role, certainly new in the CIO position, but not new in the space, as a distinguished career across the community and a lot of activity going on there. New leadership over there at the Army, at DOD. And also, of course, a new operating model that we're all working in. Raj, how are we doing over there? Give us a state of the state on IT modernization at U.S. Army.
Hey, good morning, Luke. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So the Army, it's really exciting times in the Army because we are really embarking on a massive digital modernization effort. And I specifically use the word digital modernization and not IT modernization because it's all about changing culture in the Army. And when I say that, it is how do we better, incorporate innovation and taking advantage of the new technologies such as cloud, data, and AI in support of both our business systems in the Army and how we run our business, but also how we leverage these same technologies to fight our future wars. So what the Army is embarking on is achieving what I call the digital Army of 2028, and how we're going to fight and win wars in future is leveraging these digital technologies. We are no longer in the era of using, our large tanks and helicopters and hardware-based weapon system platforms, because as you can already know, we are already in a war right now in cyberspace, right? And moving forward, we fully expect that we will be fighting concurrently and simultaneously in what we call multi-domain, and that includes land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace. So when you have to fight in all 5 domains concurrently with near peer adversaries, and we're talking, countries like China and Russia, and countries that have taken our own technologies that we've developed here in this country, such as hypersonics, and are starting to use them against us. And we have to achieve that kind of deterrence rather quickly. So for us, digital modernization is more about how we leverage the data as the ammunition of our future fight. But also the same data is critical for us to reform and modernize our own business operations. So a couple of examples that I can talk to you about is, one is we're starting with the real basics. We fight using the network. It's all about, how can we get connectivity to our soldier at the tactical edge, and all the way up to our enterprise data centers on cloud and back. And when you have to be able to share vast volumes of data, and today, as we know, everything, all our weapon system platforms have sensors on them, and the Internet of Things has made it impossible for us to share large volumes of data in congested network environments. So we're starting with something very basic, which is really modernizing our networks and making sure that they are flat, they're optimized. We're taking it, how do we take advantage of things like 5G? How do we build in low Earth orbit satellites and medium Earth orbit satellites and be able to communicate, wherever we are in any area of operations around the world, including areas like Indo-PACOM, where today we have limited presence and we have limited network bandwidth to fight, and to be able to leverage these new technologies to be able to have full situational understanding and a common operating picture of the battlefield, and to achieve mission command. So that is an effort. It's a program that we have just initiated called Unified Network Operations. And Unified Network Operations will focus, and again, one of the things that we have in the past is we have focused a lot of our effort on how we can optimize and modernize our what we call our CONUS-based data centers and our networks, which is everything here in the United States. But the pivot that we're making now is to look at our tactical architectures first, because if that is our constraint and we're always bottlenecked and limited by how we fight in the tactical space, we want to make sure that we start there first and then build our way back up to the enterprise. So
no doubt about that. It's you certainly have a constellation of complex activities going on there, and I would just, it seems to me that the heavy metal got you there. The digital modernization is going to keep you there, right? It seems that's the message I'm getting there. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also about continuous modernization, because we know that we can never be in this state where we modernize every 20 years and then say we're done. And given how fast technology is changing, what we're building into our culture and into our programs as we acquire them is how we can be in persistent modernization. So we're continuously bringing in new technologies and rapidly churn them out in support of the warfighter.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for that update, and congratulations on your new appointment. Speaking of new appointments, Heidi Meyer is newly appointed as the Deputy Chief Information Officer, has been in a variety of distinguished senior roles in the Department of Homeland Security. I know you all are on a tear over there. Tell us what's happening at Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you for inviting me here today. I wanted to go back, we're coming up on a year with the pandemic. So I did want to go back a little bit with a story about how we supported, the move to full-time telework under the pandemic, because I think it really provides a good example of how our IT modernization efforts helped us support that urgent need in just a few days, whereas, in the past, it might have taken weeks or months. So we were able to leverage our technology investments and support the move to full-time telework. The challenge was really supporting this effort real time as everyone moved to telework. We were able to ramp up to over 15,000 users in just 3 days working from home. We really focused on two areas. We took a look at connectivity. And, partnering with DHS, we made sure that everyone had reliable connectivity. We also implemented some alternative connectivity means for certain mission-specific needs. We also, of course, focused on collaboration and communication. We already had Skype and Teams, so it was really about, just getting the information out there, providing training so people knew how to use that. And we also, in a short period of time, implemented a secure video conferencing solution in just about 2 weeks. So we have been establishing other foundational work that has supported IT modernization. So we've been redesigning our network, deploying new network hubs in the Eastern and Western US. And this is going to help us provide better connectivity for better performance for our applications in the cloud, as well better connectivity for our field offices, and also improve our ability to connect with other agencies.
A very expansive field office out there, and very operational, right? You've got folks in uniform, you've got special agents all over the place out there, and to put them instantly in a mobile environment is not an easy task. So very impressed with that, and thank you for that update. Dominic, tell us about Department of Veterans Affairs. Please tell us, for the audience, the massive size of the Veterans Affairs. I'm always just in awe about just the scope and magnitude of the Department of Veterans Affairs. So give us 30 seconds on that, and then tell us what's the state of the state out there these days.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, and you're right. When I joined VA almost 5 years ago, I didn't even realize how big it was.
Right. You
before
think,
I joined.
there's a couple of hospitals, or
Right.
a couple of this, that big building and headquarters, and no.
Yeah. Well, we're the size of a Fortune 10 company, and we have over $220 billion annual budget. just for IT, we have around $6 billion annual budget if you add in some of the COVID funds that we got. But we have about 400,000 government employees, and that's not even considering our contractors. We are the largest healthcare provider in the United States and one of the largest in the world. We're in every state of the union. We're all across the U.S. We're also one of the largest benefits providers and claims processing entities in the United States. You know, we're up there with any major insurance company, processing billions of dollars worth of claims every year and paying out benefits checks to our veterans who need them to survive. So yeah, Luke, you're right. It's huge. So, you know, digital transformation is very important to us because we are so sprawling and large. We need to get to as many veterans as we can. There's 20 million veterans out there right now that we could be servicing. Not all of them are in our system and receiving services at the moment, but we'd like to help as many of them as we can. So as you can imagine, with 20 million possible constituents out there, you really got to rely on IT and a digital transformation to reach as many of those as you can and have it as a force multiplier. So we've been focusing on a digital transformation for the VA over the past couple of years. We're focusing in 5 areas: customer service to our veterans, IT modernization through updated software and infrastructure. Strategic sourcing is the third. Are we buying smartly and using our buying power? The fourth is investing in our IT workforce. Our people who support IT in the field are our most important asset. And then finally, achieving a seamless and secure interoperability. Our systems in this sprawling, huge network need to interoperate seamlessly. And we have intense security concerns in terms of our veterans' private information and private health information. So that's what we've been focused on. And we've made some strides in terms of modernization over the past couple of years. We've certainly done a lot of upgrades to our backbone and things like our bandwidth and our telecommunications, which certainly helped us during COVID. We've also increased and modernized our end user device footprint. During the course of just the last year, we've purchased almost 250,000 laptops to upgrade laptops out in the field, more than 100,000 cell phones, because we're really relying on mobile technologies to support telehealth. We've also moved into the cloud pretty significantly and built out our cloud platforms so that we have scalability and a lot more options when things like COVID or natural disasters happen. We can scale to meet the need and scale to the need of meeting telehealth for our veterans. And then not to mention, we've embarked on one of the largest electronic health record modernization programs in the history of healthcare ever. We're using a 30 to 40-year-old homegrown health record system that has worked very well for us, don't get me wrong, but it's time to modernize to a commercial solution so that we can provide cutting edge care. So yeah, big enterprise and a lot going on at VA.
Big scale, big time, and you're really moving away from the pliers and wires and really up the value chain as you digitize these environments, which I'm really pleased to hear that. I know all the veterans are really pleased to hear that. Rob Carey, let's talk about Cloudera. And first of all, congratulations on your new appointment, and tell us a little bit. Glad to see you in that space. Rob's got a very distinguished, lengthy, comprehensive background across the community, including a lot of time in federal service. Give us 30 seconds on what Cloudera is first for the audience, and then also let's talk about sort of what you see going on over there these days.
So thanks, Luke. So Cloudera, in a very short sentence, Cloudera brings organizations to the cloud, enables your teams to start from I have legacy data to I have analytics running on said data. So I have the ability to bring in tools that connect the systems and apps and data that you have and put it in a place that it can be analyzed and rendered informed decisions from. So a reason I came here was it's an age-old problem. Madame and I work together at DoD CIO, and the amount of data that DoD produces, you can't even fathom the level of data. And so decision makers in the E-ring are trying to render informed decisions based upon what? Upon that data that is very difficult to pinpoint, get, use when you want it. And
All
so,
right, if I may, you threw out a term there. I got to make sure everyone understands. E-ring, just for the audience that might not be in the DoD Pentagon bubble there. What's E-ring mean?
So the E-ring is that outer ring of the Pentagon. People have windows that look out, and that's actually where the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Army, Air Force, Navy sit. So those senior civilian officials and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs really do rely on the network to provide them timely, accurate decision-making data, which is really in the form of information, right? So think of data is raw, information is in context of the problem that they're trying to solve. So at the end of the day, I took this job because I thought this is a long-standing problem in the federal government, to be able to get on top of the legacy data that you have, decide what you need and what you don't need, and then move it forward into a modern compute platform called cloud.
Ultimately, that's what everyone is after, so that they can make very good, informed decisions, or name your mission, right? Whether it's a farmer, a small business owner, a veteran, et cetera, et cetera. So glad to see you on board there. Scott, how about over at Verizon Federal? There's a whole bunch of activity going on there. Just absolutely amazed by the folks that we're putting in and running, and have been and still are running all that infrastructure out there. And we didn't miss a beat. Everyone moves to COVID, and everyone moves to remote telework because of COVID. And those environments didn't miss a beat. So tell us what's happening at Verizon Federal these days.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me today, Luke. Verizon Federal has a number of solutions, and in fact, most of them came up. We like to look at the world as really being in three buckets today, which is different than it was, 10, 15 years ago. The three buckets being the device, the landscape, and then the destination. And we've heard the destination talked about, its data centers or cloud. The landscape, that's how you get there. 5G was mentioned, right? And there's two flavors of 5G out there right now. There is what everybody calls the nationwide 5G, and then there's 5G ultra wideband. And the reason that organizations are going to care more about ultra wideband is the fact that, coupled with that, Verizon has a number of technologies to do some things that we've talked about and looked at from an IT perspective for many years. The first thing is to actually take the data, the compute, and the user, and bring them all together quickly in a solution that we call MEC, or the multi-user edge computing solution. That comes in two flavors. We actually have a solution that we built in conjunction with AWS, which it's called Wavelength on the AWS side. It allows you to literally push to the edge of the Amazon network and to the edge of the Verizon network in building solutions that users can interoperate with. What does MEC buy you? Well, in the end, what MEC buys you is the ability to deploy 5 nines applications without having to have the 5 nines infrastructure. The applications can exist in the MEC world on their own, replicating and moving data. You simply have to change a little bit about how the application works. So in terms of modernization, we're trying to drive those three things. The other thing, and I think probably the biggest, and I'll block my face here for a moment to show the device that's going to change things. More and more people only carry their cell phone. I can remember many years ago when I first was a consultant, I used to literally carry a laptop and a camera and blah, 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 55,000 things in my bag, and tore my shoulder up over the years doing that. The reality is more and more people walk away from the office carrying their cell phone. So as we think about modernization, we want to make sure we think about those three buckets: the device, the landscape, and the destination. The destination is great and important and critical. The landscape is great, important, and critical, but so is the device. And I'll end with my very favorite line about devices, which is, If I send you a 10,000 line spreadsheet and I'm asking you to look at line number 9,246 to specifically verify a number, and you're on a cell phone, that's painful. That takes just agonizing time and effort to do. So instead of being a 30-second job, it becomes a 5 or 6 minute job. So we want to look at, as we move down the path to the device, being the mobile device, that we modernize in ways that empower users with the device. So we literally can say on the device, hey, you're about to get a 10,000 line spreadsheet and somebody wants you to review it. Can you connect to an external monitor, or can you connect to a projector so that you can see this and interoperate with it more effectively?
Wow, you're making my head spin, and very impressive. I think certainly 5G is going to really unlock a lot of capability, and I think we're all looking forward to it. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a moment. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.